Hello, it's your boy, Draftman, and welcome back to the Ice Cream Parlor. Today, I think we're talking Trick Room today. Um, Everyone's favorite Trick Room. Trick Room's interesting because I definitely think that it can be very good. And the reason you're here and the reason we're doing this thing about Trick Room, even though I said it wasn't the greatest, is because if you do want to play Trick Room and it is your first time, and maybe you feel more comfortable trying to play with Trick Room, then that's good on you for trying to play to your strengths and all that. But we're talking Trick Room today. Um, what else? Trick Room is pretty interesting because, like I said just before, I think it does have the potential to be very good. Um, there are a lot of different things, a lot of different variants of Trick Room, but I'm going to talk about the ones that I think or the one that I think is the most effective. Um, and a few things I want to go over first. Number one, Trick Room doesn't mean that all your mons are slow. If you have a Trick Room team, that doesn't mean all your mons are slow mons and they're all, Trick Room sweepers. That's not how it's going to work if you're playing Trick Room. You got to have stuff that fills roles outside of Trick Room and inside of Trick Room to a certain extent, right? You still want to be a Trick Room team, but I do not suggest ever locking yourself into hard Trick Room. I think it's very, very hard to do at any skill level, and I think it's, frankly, a lot worse than everything else. So having Trick Room that has a little bit more options outside of Trick Room is very good. That's what we're going to be covering today. But we're still going to be talking about a Trick Room team, so don't worry. We're not gonna shift the focus off of Trick Room for too long. So let's go to the tiers. Same thing. We're going to go by tier, and kind of talk about what's important and what's not. And we do actually have a Trick Room team in SPDL that we're going to talk about. High Knocked, Get Hooked. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but you can find it. Skip ahead. So first off, Age of Slash I think is very good. A steel type that can function both as kind of a wall and kind of a offensive mon, both physically and especially is a big deal. That's very good. Conkeldurr, if you kind of want that, Conkeldurr can be very nice. Not just Trick Room mons that abuse Trick Room, but stuff that works on Trick Room teams specifically. So Melmetal, obviously Melmetal is very good. Urshifu I think is interesting. Urshifu has a very good speed tier. I think it works very well with Trick Room. Zero Aura for that speed. Same thing with Draft because some of your mons are going to be slower and you are going to be having speed tier gaps. Having Zero Aura, that's just so much faster than so much of the meta is very interesting and can be very good to play with. Other good things I could see is something with removal. Torn T, Tapu Fini could be very good. Stuff that doesn't limit your removal is very interesting. You want. It sounds interesting, but it sounds weird, but you want a lot of removal, because as you'll see later, some of the cheaper mons or the mons you're going to be going for on a Trick Room team don't like rocks or don't like webs, or actually they don't mind webs, but webs can still be annoying. Faster Trick Room centers, I believe Mew and Necrozma. I believe Necrozma gets Trick Room. Yeah, it does. Mew and Necrozma both get Trick Room. Not ideal setters in my opinion. I believe Jirachi gets Trick Room. Poobon Bound gets Trick Room. Faster Trick Room setters, I think, in my opinion, is very good. Sash could be a very big friend of yours, but if you're looking for a tier 1 and you want a good Trick Room abuser, Conkeldurr is very good. All the stuff we went over is very good. If Melmetal, obviously, I think if you're gonna go for Trick Room, Melmetal, if you can get it round 1, I think is very good. Zero Aura is very good. On to tier 2. I know that was a fast tier 1, but that's really how it be. Alakazam and Azoth both interesting, but you don't want to stack too many Psychic Mons. That's another issue I see commonly with those. Cinderace is good, I think, for a tier 2 because it allows, while it speaks to rocks and stuff, it abuses, a lot of times you'll be facing opponents who run a lot of taunt mons to taunt your users. Cinderace being a good speed to taunt them back, or you turn out, taunt them, you turn into something that can set Trick Room, and then you're in a good spot. Crawdon is very good. That thing both works inside and outside of Trick Room. It's kind of slow, but D-Dance and plus nothing switches into it anyway, so it's going to be a very fun thing to play around with. Hatterene by far is the best, I think, because outside it works. It can work well with Calm Mind Drain Kit sets like you saw in the video where Keenan used it, but Magic Bounce is incredible because you just can't get taunted, and has a very good move pool. Um, has a very good move pool, and it can sweep in its own Trick Room. You can see here it has Grass, Fire, Berry, even physical options like Power Up if you wanted to. Thunder Wave, Shadow Ball, and it just has a very good move pool. Kind of limited, but it has more than enough to succeed in sweep and do a lot of things really. Magnezone could be very big, I guess, kind of sometimes. Mimikyu is good because Mimikyu gives you something that a lot of mons can't, and that's guaranteed setup with Trick Room at least one turn because of Disguise. You can disguise and Memento into a different mon if you want to. But Uniclus is very big. Having Regenerate is cool because you kind of switch in and out, move around. It sweeps in its own Trick Room, similar to Hatterene. It just Uniclus can't get taunted, but it does have Magic Guard, which is cool. So the Slowbros are interesting. I think the Slowbro can be very good with Trick Room Teleport, or it is very good with Trick Room Teleport. I'm not sure about this new one. The ground weakness is kind of annoying, and I'm not overall. I'm actually just not sure how it plays. I haven't tested it too much, that mon specifically. Toxicity is interesting. This is going to be a trend among a few mons, but I think that Trick Room is very interesting this generation with the axis of whoops. What? I can't look for items? What? Oh, well, with the axis of room service, it drops the user speed by 1. So mons like Toxicity, who are kind of middling, who can kind of wall break outside of Trick Room, but also has the ability to sweep inside of Trick Room with like, min speed and room service. Because if we take a look at the calcs, obviously Toxicity being like insanely powerful. Just so we get the specs out of the way. Yeah, see, that's his middling speed tier, but if you take away everything or all of its speed here. 155 minus 1 is 103, which is not horrible, but you can definitely manipulate it so that maybe you have enough speed to outspeed, base 80s like base 70s and below, outside of Trick Room, but inside of Trick Room you catch everything up after room service pops, which is very cool. And it's very epic to kind of play around with, and I think that it can definitely be like manipulated very well. I think that item, room service, is very, very important if you're going to be using a Trick Room team. Over here, Melmetal, very expensive, but I think it's definitely worth it. I think Hatterene is somewhere down here. Hatterene is way down there. Hatterene's very good, yeah. You went over that. Everything, you can go ahead and join this Discord server, and you can take a look at this yourself. Because there's just a lot to cover, and I don't want to get caught up in the points of tiers too much. Yeah, Hoopa Unbound is, I think, very expensive. I believe Deoxys gets Trick Room, but I'm not sure. How do you spell Deoxys, dude? Why am I tripping? D-E-O. Yeah, that's what I did, right? Did I not do D-E-O? Oh, I guess not. Yeah, Trick Room and Teleport. So if you can grab that, that's very good. Of course, watch out for the Psychic spam, or the Psychic weakness. That can be very annoying. Circuitry, I think, is, or not weakness, but the stack of that type. Circuitry, I think, is interesting. I think similar thing with Toxicity. It is the same thing as Toxicity, except Toxicity has like setup. Like you're afraid of the setup on Toxicity, which you kind of are for Circuitry. But I feel like Shift Gear is just a lot more. People are more afraid of Shift Gear. Tier 3 Hoopa, normal Hoopa, I think is very cool. To catch off, like to, not block, but to check the Psychics you're going to have, and something like Incineroar could be cool. Greninja if you want it faster. Gardevoir can set Trick Room, not the best setter, but it can definitely do that. Danzy sets Trick Room. Domize is a very good tier 3 to abuse Trick Room. Corsola is Corsola Crystala is very good. Crobat's very good because it's fast taunt, and it's quite bulky. Cough says Trick Room. Chandelier, another one of those mons just like Toxtricity, which kind of has a middling speed tier with 80, but it has something that others don't. Oops, I can't spell. And it can set its own Trick Room. If you can get up like 1 to 2 turns to set up with room service up, even if you can't get room service, hitting 165 is kind of slow. It's kind of slow, but it's definitely going to be catching stuff below 60 and stuff like that. Because if you look at something with a base speed stat of 60 and uninvested, it's still, or actually it's still slower. Either way, it's definitely a good mon. It was faster. That's the thing. It was faster. That Chandelier was faster than this Horsey, which was big. Crobat here is at 12. I think Mega Sableye gets Trick Room too, which is kind of interesting if you want to play with that. Stack Attacker gets Trick Room now, and along with Oxys to Body Press, it can be kind of dangerous. Its typing is still really bad though, so be careful with that. Slowking is here at 13. I have no idea why Slowking is higher than Hatterene. I think Hatterene and Mimikyu down here are both very, very good steals. Both of them fairy types, but you can kind of play around that. Chandelure also in 11. Darmanitan is very good. It's a very good Scarfer. Galvantula can be good if you want that. Klefki is good. Bronzong is interesting. It's a good steel type. That's Trick Room, but again, it's a psychic, so you don't want too many of those. You don't want too many dark weaknesses. Like Chandelure is a dark weakness. Delmize would be a dark weakness, so just be very, very careful with that. Incineroar, we talked about him. Incineroar can be very good. Klefki is interesting because it can kind of spread paralysis around, which is cool. Porygon 2, Teleport Trick Room, is very good, and you don't want to get caught up in these slower mons. You want some faster stuff as well. Something like Zarude can be cool because it's dark grass, and it's quite quick. I believe Zarude is base 105, so it's quite quick really, and the dark typing is very nice. Obviously insanely weak to U-turn, but it's not like it's gonna be doing U-turns of its own, right? It gets U-turn, right? Yeah, it's gonna be doing its own U-turning. Very good defensive stats also. Leaf Guard kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. I believe Jungle Healing heals it. Yeah. Yeah, Jungle Healing is very cool. To clear the way, I think Crocodile can be very cool. I think Berlin can be interesting. Bisharp can be interesting. Zan can be interesting. You don't want to get locked in the Trick Room, right? You don't want to be hard Trick Room. Something that can set up if your league allows what is that called? When all the Z stats boost. Omni boosting. If your league allows Omni boosting, I think that Como can be very good. Is that kind of it, dude? In this tier, Talonflame's cool because there's priority defog and stuff like that. Plus, it's just a very good speed tier. But you kind of want your fire. And also, although the Marowak should be kind of higher up in tiers. Marowak, Alola, 10 points. That's a steal in my opinion. With the access to Poltergeist now, it's just a disgustingly powerful mon. And it should be in tier 3 here, but it's in tier 4 in this league, which is one of the mistakes we made, but you know what happens. Keeping hazards off your side of the field is something I think is important too. I think it can be very important. If your league allows Shadow Tag, I think Shadow Tag is excellent with Trick Room. Just removing something. Ditto, I think, is very interesting to play around with. I think Ableton's cool. I think Archeops is a good lead, but I think it's predictable as a lead. Like, it's very easily going to be your lead most of the time. Eels. You don't want you kind of want removal too. So Caragonal is kind of middling speed tier. Maybe I don't recommend it, but something with Rapid Spin, Defog. If you can't get in the higher tiers, lower tiers is good too. If you're gonna pick up Hatterene, you have Magic Bounce, which is very useful. Something like Gastrodon can be cool. You're going to want to cover your cores too, so you're going to want your water. Jellicent is tricky as a water type, and that's very cool, but it has that dark weakness, right? So just be careful about that. Marowak-A-Lola, we talked about that. This should be in tier 3, by the way. Noivern's very good. I think Noivern gets access to Taunt. And it's quite a good dragon. Yeah, it does get access to Taunt. U-Turn, Hurricane, Frisk is a very big deal. Kangaroo is cool because it's quite slow. And it's a dark type, dark fighting. But this is a very good Trick Room abuser. You can band it, you can do a lot with it. Or Scrappy is such a good ability. It has very good coverage here, Gunk Shot. Bullet Punch. Very good coverage. Illusion Persian is cool. The thing that Illusion Persian and Kangaroo have in common is U-Turn, and that's another thing with Trick Room is you don't want your team to be too stagnant in place, meaning that you want a lot of options to move around, you want a lot of Trick Room, or you want a lot of U-Turn, and you want a lot of Volt Switch, just to give your team some momentum. Like say you want to Volt Switch out of your last turn of Trick Room into a wall, you can do that, or you want to, teleport's a big deal too, so you want teleport and U-Turn for those main reasons, right? Tier 5. There isn't a lot in tier 5, I don't think. I think more Pico is very good for like a low tier Fastmon to work outside of Trick Room. Rampardos is very good. I think it slipped on. Sableye sets Trick Room, which is cool. Also only linked to fairies. I think Shiinotic gets Trick Room, but I don't actually I don't think so. Don't quote me on that one. There really isn't too much down here. You have to be very careful with this. I think Crabominal actually works really well in a Trick Room, which is interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I think it can work very well. BM gets Trick Room. Just watch the Psychic. Let's talk about Megans actually, because there's a lot of there are some interesting Mega options you got here. In your first tier, I don't see there's too much that's valuable, honestly. You've only got Trick Room setters that are Psychic types with Latios and the Gardevoirs, Mega Diancie, but they're all pretty quick, which is, I think, actually good in a lot of situations because it means you are faster than your opponent. You have fast Trick Room, Gallade, and Gardevoir both, I believe, have. Gallade, they both have Trick Room and Teleport. Yeah. So that's a very cool combo for a Mega, especially Mega Gallade and Mega Guard, who can both work outside of Trick Room very well. I suggest Mega Gallade over Mega Gallade over Mega Gardevoir because the 10 points of speed is actually pretty big, I think, for a Mega. Yeah, not being able to hold an item is kind of annoying, but really it's such a good bulk. Such good bulk that you can kind of run a more defensive bulky set, and because of the speed here, you can kind of make it a wall breaker. And if you want it to be a Trick Room sweeper, you can. Not necessarily a Trick Room sweeper, but more of a breaker. I think it could definitely do that. Mainly, it's going to be functioning outside of Trick Room, which I think is very important. Gardevoir, we talked about Gardevoir, but I just don't recommend it as much. It gets the Wish Pass, which is cool, but I don't really vibe that much with that mon. Mega Aggron I think can be very interesting. I don't think it's necessarily very good though. Mega Bro can be very good. But I think the best one is, as you can see here, like I drafted this generation, or here with, or actually Steelix can be good. But I think Mega Camerupt is the best because it gives you so much points back, and because it works well in the Trick Room, now you have just a ton of points here to mess around with stuff up here. Maybe you can grab Gran, who's a dark and faster water type, and in conjunction with your grass type, you can make a good core there. You have Melmetal, your Steel, and you're going to have your Fairy and Hatterene. So maybe to pick up a dragon, you grab, I don't know, Noivern to kind of round out that core and give you that taunt and defog and all that stuff that you really kind of want. Maybe you want double psychic and you get double trick room here, or maybe you're wanting to invest in something else like Porygon 2 that does a similar role, does similar jobs. Zarude is very good, as we talked about. Maybe you do want to get your Intimidate Mon with Incineroar and your Dark type. And try to make your speed tiers kind of gap. I know they're gonna have a lot of speed tier gaps, and it's gonna be biased towards slower mons, but just try to make sure that you maybe have 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, I guess, maximum trick room sweepers or mons or trick room sweepers. Maybe you have like 2 to 3 setters, and then you have your mons that work outside of trick room as well. Clefairy is, I think, an interesting. I didn't mention it, but I think Clefairy is an interesting tier 5 for trick room teleport as well. Let's look at how much time we at. 20 minutes. We're fine. We have a little bit of time left. This is going to be a little bit shorter, even though I do than Hyper Offense or Stall, but I do think it has the most potential. Let's look at. I don't know what's going on outside. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Santa Clara Valleys. They drafted the trick room team. We talked about it in the stall team. This is not what you want to see. Hold on. Nope. Valleys. Epic. Okay. So this is actually a pretty good stall team. See, 60 and below. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months dedicated to trick room. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outside of trick room. This team isn't the best because the speed tier gap is very bad, and it's more definitely locked into trick room. But say you removed 1 or 2 of these mons, and you fit speed tier gaps here, or you had your correct cores. I think this team could be a lot scarier. Say you had better removal, and then just literally just Crobat here, and say you had more rock setters than Alolan Marowak and Camerupt, since they don't want to be carrying that rocks roll. Or I guess you have Komodo now. But your sweepers and your trick room abusers definitely don't want to be the ones setting rocks. I mean, they can be if the opponent has a switch in, and you think it's common, like they have a dedicated switch in. Sorry, I yawned. You can put rocks on that and force the switch and get rocks up on the switch, but I think it's just better to not do that. I think rocks are better up going up before trick room, so that maybe your opponent has to set up or has to defog on a turn, and then that turn is when you make your move with trick room and where you break their momentum for a little bit. I think that's very good here. He has only 3 trick room setters. Yeah, Slowbro, Porygon, and Eggy, but you can see they're all with teleport. The thing that his offensive ones don't have though is the momentum. Well, not like the biggest deal. I think momentum on trick room is very important to get out on the last turn of trick room and not have to risk switching out hard into something. But keeping the switch while you have momentum on a mon that you kind of maybe like more, and you're not risking your opponent doubling or anything. Yeah, make sure you have a lot of defog. Not a lot of defog, but make sure you have hazard control and better rocks options, good rocks options. Make sure you're just make sure you have a lot of momentum. I think momentum is very important. I think it's something people ignore. Make sure your speed tiers aren't too gappy, because you still want to be able to be threatening outside of trick room. Like, say your opponent brings taunt mons, like, what do you do if you're hard trick room? Right, you're gonna have a hard time. But if you have faster mons that maybe threaten the opponent's trick mons and stuff, you can play around it a lot easier, and you're in a much better position to control the game, really, because trick room's kind of all about controlling the opponent. You have to make the opponent play at your pace, right? So if you want to play trick room correctly, you're gonna have to make the opponent play trick room with you. Their best way to stop you, in my opinion, is just to make sure trick room doesn't go up. So that's taunt, that's a bunch of things. But if you have Hatterene, you can circumvent taunt. Just be careful with steel types and stuff like that. Obviously, Hatterene's kind of an interesting case too, because it doesn't have momentum, so you're gonna be going hard into stuff. Unfortunately, after trick room goes up, say your Hatterene's out on something like I don't know, Dredigan, and you're clicking trick room, and they're going hard into their steel type, then you got to go hard into something else, which can take chip, which isn't always a bad thing. But say that thing is a Registeel, and you're gonna go in. Say you only brought your Melmetal and a Alolan Marowak and your opponent has a Registeel and they went into the Registeel on the Hatterene, now you're gonna have to risk the Earthquake. And if you stay in, you're risking Heavy Slam. So it's just it's a tricky situation, but it can definitely be played around. Screen Setters, I think, is interesting too. Grimmsnarl, Alolan. We talked about Alola Tails on Hyper Offense, but I mean, it can work on Trick Room. What else? I think that's kind of it. Yeah. Don't lock yourself in a hard Trick Room, but definitely build a Trick Room team. Keep momentum on your side and don't be too Rocks weak or not have enough hazard options. Make sure that you're playing to your strengths with Trick Room, so don't be trying to, having all your mons outspeed the opponent's mons, play slow. Make sure you're aware and ready for taunt and all that. Be aware of your types matchups, because you don't want everything to be weak to Sucker Punch or Bite or Crunch or anything like that, or Shadow Ball. You just really don't want that. It's not fun to deal with. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Get momentum. Yeah, keep momentum on your side. Mons that can abuse momentum is very important. You abuse room service. That's something people don't abuse as much in Trick Room teams. Take room service to your advantage. That means you have a little bit of a faster mon who's kind of middling that you kind of use to wall break outside of Trick Room. You can also use it to sweep inside of Trick Room if you have room service and stuff like that. But yeah, be creative. Do what you need to do to win. Definitely try to play around with different sets and don't get locked into bringing the same sets and stuff like that. Don't always bring Banded Melmetal. Maybe make a Melmetal that works outside of Trick Room with the sub Acid Armor Body Press set and stuff like that. I think that's about it. So until next time, I guess. Goodbye. God bless. And have a good day.